So welcome back. Now, as you can see, here are the reference line for this skirt. I have this line for the waist. This is the waistline. Why? This line is the hip line. Of course, this skirt is going to have a band. Now, the base here is the base, the down part of the skirt. If you look at it, the last line is for the hemming allowance. So right now I'm going to start by imputing the measurement for this skirt. Now for the waist, the circumference of the waist for this skirt is 22 inches, and 1/4 of 22 inches gives me 5.5 inches. So right now I'm going to place my ruling tape right on the edge here. Lest I forget, this fabric is on fold. You can see it's on fold. So that's why I'm going to place it right now, my railing tape, to mark 5.5 inches. So here is it. Now I'm going to include 2 inches for my seam allowance. Actually, it's supposed to be 1 inch, but because of a unique style which this skirt is going to be, so that's the reason why I've make the seam allowance to be 2, because by the time I impute the flounce, it will take off the 1 inch, so leaving 1 inch for the seam allowance. So now I go straight to this the hip line. Here is the hip line, and then I have the hip of this skirt to be 36 inches, that is the hip circumference. So 1/4 of 36 inches gives me 9 inches. So I have my 9 inches right here, plus 2 inches, just exactly as I did for the waist. So I have my 2 inches here. Can you see? So right now I move down to uh, the down part of the skirt. So now coming to the down part of the skirt, whatever I have on the hip line, I have that is 1/4 of the hip gives me 9 inches. So I'm going to subtract. It depends on how pencil you want this skirt to be, but for me 1 inch is okay. So it's between 1.5 inches to 1 inch. So I'm going to place it right here. This is the down part. So that is 1 minus 9. I have 8 inches. So I mark my 8 inches right here. So remember, plus 2 inches for the seam allowance. So what I have at the base here, I will just transfer to the hemming allowance. So right now is to connect what I have left right now is to connect these lines together to this and this. So I connect from the base. You could connect from the waistline. It actually depends on you. So as you can see right now, I'm connecting the lines together. Then I move to the waist. I also connect that of the hip line to the waistline. Can you see? So right now, the next thing I'm going to do right now is just to cut it out. So After cutting it out, so I'm going to use this front panel to cut out the back panel. So cut it out straight. So here is it. So right now I'm going to place this on my fabric to cut out the back piece. So as you can see right here, I've placed the front piece of this skirt to my fabric to cut out the back piece. Now if you look at it, if you look at this place, you discover this is just 1 inch. Normally I'm supposed to leave out 2 inches for the zipper allowance. You remember when I was cutting the front one, I had to make the seam allowance to be 2 inches. So 1 inch out of the 2 inches has been taken care of for the zipper. So the other one in this 1 inch, let me just start again. The 2 inches which I made for the seam allowance for the front panel serve as my zipper for the for the back piece right now. So this 1 inch which I'm leaving is going to serve as the seam allowance for the back piece. I hope that is clear. So right now, what I'm going to do straight now is just to cut it out, to cut this out since I've placed it on the fabric. So that's the next thing I'm going to do right now, just to cut it out. So please, if you are confused, just drop your question in the comment section for me to see. So right now, it's just to trace it. It's as simple as that. After which I move to the next level of this project. Trace it. So I've cut it out. Now I need to reshape this waistline. All I need to do is to come down by 1 inch. Then I place my ruling tape. I come down by 1 inch or half an inch. Let me just use 3/4 of an inch. So here I'm going to connect to the tip here, to the point here, to give me a very just slight curve at the waistline. So it's not going to be a square shape that is on the waistline. So it will just give me a slight curve so that it will have a very nice look by the time I finish the skirt. So just to connect it to the point here. So right now I'm going to cut it out. So the down part is going to be, the hemming line is going to be half an inch, not 1 inch, correct? But I added 1 inch. So this, both the waistline and the down part is taken care of in terms of hemming. So as you can see right now, you can see the slight curve at the edge of the waist circumference. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to just slit this, to divide this into two. That is, this is the back piece. But I'm going to make a sign just for me to know that this is the wrong side of this fabric. And I will also cross it like so to indicate that this is the wrong side of the fabric because it almost look alike. So right now, like I said, I'm going to slash this into two, that is divide it, cut it into two equal parts. Because is the back piece. Now, as you can see, I've made I've made a reference line here. Can you see this line? Now, I achieved this line by dividing the the base the base of this skirt, that is the down part. I divided it into three. So 1/4 of what I achieve here, the line here, is what I use to draw this line. And I take it up here, as you can see. So now this one here is the seam allowance line, which is 1 inch. So it's the seam allowance line. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to cut out this. So I'm going to cut it, tracing this line and cut it down. As you can see what I'm doing right here. So this is where my flounce is going to stay. So right now I go back to cutting the flounce for the skirt. So I will be using the same material to cut out the flounce. Now it depends on you. You could decide to make it two different types of fabric. You could decide to make the down part. Already this material, this fabric is on fold. You can see is two. So you could decide to make it the down part to be another color. It totally depends on you. So for this, I will be using the same material. So right now, I'm going to start off. The first thing I'm going to do before cutting out the flounce, I'm going to consider the length. And you remember the length which we cut was 27 together with the hemming line or hemming allowance. Then also, I'm going to consider the seam side, that is from the hip to this point here. I'm going to consider the length for this seam side and also the length of this waist. So those are the three things I'm going to consider in cutting out the flounce for this skirt. So right now, keeping this aside, now I have from here to here, I have about 8 inches. So that 8 inches, I'm going to look for the half of 8 inches, which is 4. So I'm going to add half of 8 inches plus 8, giving me 12 inches. So right here, I'm going to mark 12 inches right here. So here is the line. So right now, I'm going to, for the slope, it's either you use 2.5 inches or 2 inches just for the slope. So I will be using like 2 inches for the slope from this point downwards, 2 inches. So right now, I'm going to connect this line to this edge here. So I have the line. So right now I come back to this waistline. I'm going to measure whatever I have on the waistline is what I shall be imputing downward here. So I'm going to measure. I have 5 inches, so I measure downward 5 inches. So I connect these lines together. Sorry for using freehand, but it's better you use a straight object so that I will have that straight effect. So right now, having done with this, so you remember the flaws. I will come back to this. Now the side seam gives me 8 inches. So that 8 inches, I'm going to add whatever I have here. And before I even move from this, I'm going to look for the midpoint of these 5 inches, which gives me 2.5 inches. I look for the midpoint, and I'm going to make inward, I'm going to make like 0.5 inches. I'm going to mark 0.5 inches to give me that slight curve effect which I have on my waist circumference. So since it's not too deep, I will still get that 5 inches. But if it is, the deeper it is, the bigger the number will be. So I will advise you use either the 0.5 or less than that, just to make it a slight curve at the waist circumference. So right now, coming down to this part is just to add the 8 inches for this side seam plus 5. So 8 plus 5, I have 13. So right now I'm going to come down by 13, or I subtract 1 from it, making it 12. So it's either you use it like that or you subtract 1 inch from it and bring it down. So I'm going to connect this line upward. So right now, from this point now, I'm going to measure like 7 inches or 7.5 inches. So I make 7 inches. So I'm going to mark 7 inches. So right now, I'm going to connect this line to what I have here. Now, in a very slight curve shape. Very slight curve, not too straight. So right now, I'll go back to the length of the skirt. You remember the length is 27 inches. Okay, so that's what I shall be doing right now. So right now, I'm just going to make a slight curve, extend this curve, extend it. You can use freehand, just extend it. So I'm going to measure from here until I get to my 27 inches. So it's better I start here because of my fabric. So I measure till I get to 27 inches. So I'm going to take it down till I get to the 27 inches. So right now I'm going to remeasure it. I've extended the lines. So I measure. So you can see I have 27 inches. So I'm going to extend it by 1 inch, making it 28. So it's better it is longer than shorter, because once it is shorter, there won't be any, it's going to stress one up. But if it is longer, you can easily adjust it to give you your desired length. So after this right now, so I'm going to curve it downward, and I'll make sure that as I'm curving it, I'll make sure that it's going bigger from the tail. So it's better, it's free hand that is very good for this. Just use your free hand, and later you adjust the shape to your best taste. Can you see? So right now, having got to this point, so remember the other time when I measured this part, I added some inches. After measuring the seam side, which is 8, I added like 4. So whatever I added, I'm going to subtract that from this. So I added 4. So I'm going to subtract that 4 from it. So I measure the 4 and subtract. So right now, I can now take it down to this side. So that line. So right now, the next thing I'm going to do right now is just to cut it up. Is to cut. You can see the shape. Our flounce is ready. Remember, it should be right to right side. So I'm going to cut it out right now. So in the process, you can modify it to give you a very nice shape in the process of cutting. So as you can see, I've cut it out. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to stitch from here round like so. So because this is the down part of the flounce, so I'm going to stitch right from this tail down to the up here. So I will leave this open and this one open also. Now that I'm done stitching this line downward, so the next thing for me is to turn it to the right side like so. After turning it, so I will now iron, turning it to the right side, then I iron it so that it will give me a very smooth edge here. Now as you can see here, I've ironed it. I've ironed my flounce. So right now I'm going to place it on the fabric to check. You discover that I've not stitched these edges up, which I'm supposed to do, but I will just have to check first to see if there is excess at the bottom here so that I can just adjust it and make some correction there. So right now you can see this is the same line and this is the waist. So I'm going to place it like this. So as I place it like this, then the side, I'm going to place it, then I seal, place it, and I seal. Like this. So you can see that there is excess at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is very easy. All I need to do is just to reshape it. So I'm going to reshape it like so. I reshape it here. So I take my chalk. I reshape where this one ends. It ends here. So I'm going to shape it like this. So I'm going to cut this off so that I will have the last one here. So that's just a little adjustment. So then I'm done. So this side, actually I'm not even supposed to close it up to this side, but notwithstanding, what is very important, sorry, yes, it's correct, I didn't close this side, so that is it. So after which everything is ready. I hope you have learned one or two things in this tutorial. Please, if you have gained one or two things, please kindly give it a thumbs up. You click on the liking button to appreciate this work. And if you are just watching my video for the very first time, kindly click on the subscribe button to learn more in this channel. Thank you. All right, so here comes the conclusion of the tutorial. Can you see the skirt? Can you see the flaws? So you can see it's a very easy skirt to make and it's very unique. So I really want to appreciate you for taking your time to watch this video. Thank you very much. If you have gained something in this tutorial, kindly click on the liking button to appreciate this work. Thank you very much. And feel free to drop any question you have regarding this tutorial. So till I come your way again, bye for now.